Hey there. Okay, I'm so glad that you tuned in to this episode of the Short Term Revolution podcast. I am really pumped that you are with me today. And today I want to tackle a topic or a question that tends to come up quite a bit when I talk with people who are interested in getting started with their first short-term rental. They will sometimes either send me a DM or reach out to me in some fashion and say something like, well, I have this deal that I'm looking at and I want to know if it's a good deal. Now, generally speaking, I don't tell people buy or don't buy, right? But today I thought, you know what? How about you give people a framework to actually be able to look at their deals and determine, is it a good deal or not? Right? Okay, so if we haven't met, I'm Chiagozie Fawole. I am a pediatric anesthesiologist based in the Syracuse, New York area. Love, love, love to talk about short-term rentals and real estate. If you see me out there in public, that's probably what I'm talking about. And today is no different. Now, when it comes to evaluating a property or evaluating a deal that has either been brought your way or you've stumbled upon, let's say on Zillow, for example, the first thing that I like to point people back to is, what is the goal? What is the big picture? What's the overall point? Like, why are we even in this conversation to start? Because sometimes people think that because it is, let's say short-term rentals, then there should be a right answer. There should be, a cash on cash return number that makes it a good deal, right? Unfortunately, there is no such thing. It is such a personal decision. It is such a personal thing that almost makes this video or training even like obsolete, because it's such a personal thing that I can't tell you if it's a good deal or not for you. However, okay, knowing what the common goals are, I'm going to try my best to actually like help you determine if it's a good deal for you. So first of all, what are some reasons that people go into short-term rentals? Okay, the first reason is cash flow. They want to make as much money as they can from the property that they have, right? And not just cash flow, they want to make a decent cash on cash return. In other words, if they put down, let's say, $50,000 as a down payment and to furnish the place, right? They want to be able to make a return that makes it worth their while. So cash flow is number one. The second reason that people go into short-term rentals is the tax benefits, particularly people that follow me, people that are in our community. A lot of them go into short-term rentals for the tax advantages that short-term rentals can give working professionals. Now, if this is the first time that you're hearing about the tax strategies for professionals, right, to save on the W-2 income, then you definitely want to watch a different video I'll be putting out soon, okay? But just know for right now that even if you're working a full-time job, even if you don't meet the criteria as a real estate professional, you can save significantly on your taxes by simply owning and operating a short-term rental. Okay, as an example, in 2022, we filed our taxes in 2023, and we were able to shelter as much as $159,000 of my income from 2022 from taxes. Legit. Totally above ground, nothing shady, okay? These are built into the IRS tax code to allow you save on taxes, okay? But that's for a different video. Now, the third reason, and probably my favorite reason for going into short-term rentals, is for the personal, asset that you get to enjoy. I call it your recreational generational asset. Yep, I'm claiming that, okay? Your recreational generational asset, a property that you get to use, you get to enjoy for a limited time, because there's a whole thing there for tax things as well. But for the days that you do use it, it can be an amazing place to get away. Now, a few days ago, my family actually came out up this way, and we got to spend time at one of our lake houses. Okay, it was an amazing time. We definitely made memories. My kids got to get on a kayak by themselves. I mean, it was just amazing. Okay, something that I would never have done with my long-term rentals. Why? Because tenants. Okay, so those are the three big reasons that people go in short-term rentals. And so based on those reasons, like which of those is your primary reason for buying the property? Because it's when you determine what your primary reason is that everything else that I'm going to be saying after, like, is it a good deal for this, now then has a context and then makes sense. Even though I have specified that there are different reasons for going into short-term rentals, there are generally some principles that make operating a short-term rental more pleasurable, like more beneficial, right? Like you don't want, for example, at the end of the month to have to be shoving out money from your pocket to pay for the property, particularly if you bought it primarily for cash flow reasons, okay? Even if you buy the property for personal use, won't it be nice if the property made enough, not only to take care of its own expenses, but also give you additional income at the end of the month? Won't it be nice? Okay, so that even if you are buying it for personal use, it'll still be nice for it to be able to cover its own expenses. Okay, so these are the things that we think about when we say that a property is a good deal. Okay, now, and then of course, for the tax purposes, you know, there is that whole math right there. Okay, now, there are 4 questions that you need to ask when you're evaluating a deal or evaluating a location, trying to figure out if it's going to be a good short-term rental or not. The first question is, what are the attractions nearby? Okay, this is the location piece that everybody talks about when it comes to investing in real estate. Okay, what is nearby? Because if you're going to operate a property as a short-term rental, you need to keep in mind who you're going to be putting in the property, or who's going to be coming to the property, and what it is that they're coming for. There are different types of short-term rentals. There are urban short-term rentals. There are leisure or vacation destination type short-term rentals. Functionally speaking, they're short-term rentals, but in earnest, what is nearby is the major thing that determines how occupied your property will be. So if your property is out in the middle of nowhere with nothing nearby, okay, then you better have something in the middle of nowhere that people are coming to you for. Like if it is literally the middle of nowhere, well, nobody's gonna come, right? Nobody's gonna come. However, if for example you're operating an urban short-term rental, like are there hospitals nearby for those coming for medical treatment? Are there universities nearby for those on sabbaticals, for example? Are there like major hotels nearby? Because sometimes when you see that there are a lot of hotels in the area, that tells you that there's some travel demand in the area. If you are urban, now we're starting out with the urban properties, okay? Are there any particular attractions nearby? Amusement parks, theme parks, things that people will come from out of town to visit close to you. Now, how close is close enough? It depends on where you are, okay? Like for me in Syracuse, right? If you told me that your property, that your thing was 20 minutes from where I'm gonna be, that's a little far, my dear, because you basically span the entire city by 20-minute mark. However, if you're in Texas where everybody drives 45 minutes, an hour and a half to where they're trying to go, then 20 minutes is pretty close, okay? If we're talking, beachfront, lakefront type destinations, then the closer you are, the even better. Like, can you say, for example, like we have a beach house that I literally say, it steps from the beach. I previously had 450 feet from the beach, and my husband goes, people don't know how to tell that distance, okay? We're Nigerians, we don't count in feet, okay? So it's like, put it in a way that people will actually remember. Because remember, the reason that you want to know where the attractions and what the attractions are is so that you can put it in the listing and say, my property is 5 minutes from from the Notre Dame, I don't even know, Notre Dame soccer, whatever, football stadium, I don't know, right? From the stadium. Or it's like directly waterfront. It is on the beach. It is, 2 minutes from, name the attraction, okay? You want to be able to sell your property based on what is nearby, because you can transform the inside. You can do all kinds of things to make a property pop, but if it's not close enough to where people want to actually be, can't quite help you there. Okay, so number 1, what are the attractions nearby and how far away are they from the property or neighborhood that you're thinking of getting your short-term rental in? All right, ready for number 2? Let's do this. Number 2, what do the houses in the area cost, or what does that particular house cost, okay? Why does this matter? It matters because the cost of the house that will determine if you can buy it. Can you afford it, right? Like I would love to have a property, let's just say in Gulf Shores, Alabama, directly waterfront. But right now, those are going for like, $2 to $3 million, and I may or may not want to spend that amount of money on one short-term rental. Just saying, just yet. Who knows? Maybe by the time I come back to this in like, I don't know, a year or two, I may say, oh, it's just $3 million. Okay, well, that's coming. Okay. That said, what is your budget, right? So there are different ways of financing deals. And with short-term rentals, yes, you can get a property for 10% down, which is a plus. So what is your budget? How much do the properties cost, right? Because I don't care how good a deal is. If you can't afford it, it's out of your wallet. Okay, that's already done. Okay. The second reason I want to know how much the houses cost is because that will determine if how much it makes is worth your while. Okay, so I gave you the example of down in Gulf Shores, Alabama. Now, same property, let's say it's going for 1.5 million, right? Could make $100,000 in revenue in a given year. Now, on its own, if I told you, well, my property made $100,000, you'd be like, whoa, that's amazing. But if I told you my property made $100,000, but it cost me 1.5 million to buy it, now that's a different story. Okay, because you're probably not cash flowing with that kind of a ratio. Okay, so you can the third question, that was a segue into the third question, which is how much does the property make? Okay, how much can the property make? Okay, and that question is what makes the last question either too much or too little, right? So how much can the property make? You can find a property that, for example, can make $100,000 and only cost you, let's say, $450,000 to buy. Or you can find a property that makes the same amount that cost you $900,000. So which one would you rather? I would rather go with a property that costs me less and makes me more. How about that, right? How about that? And listening, you may be saying, well, Chiagozie, where can you still find properties that do that? I'm like, hold on, calm your horses. In the past, you could find properties that made you, let's say, $100,000 pretty easily and went for, let's say, like $400,000. However, these days, you actually have to look for them, okay? And for those who work with us, we actually favor looking for less known markets, okay? So markets that don't make the headlines, markets that aren't on your, favorite best place for Airbnb list, like hidden gem type markets where you can go in, dominate the market, and effectively like take territory, okay? Now, when you find that market, though, you make the big bucks. That's how you know that it's a good deal. Okay, now, after you've determined, and now how do you determine how much the property makes? You can use a tool called AirDNA and basically plug in the address, and it'll tell you how much a property could make. Now, I always remember that it's an estimate, but right now it is our best estimate so far. There are lots of tools out there, and there's always debates about like which one is the most accurate or whatever. I like AirDNA because it's been there a while, it's tried, it's tested. Sometimes people even make more than AirDNA would suggest. AirDNA also pulls from both Airbnb and VRBO. It's probably the most robust that I can refer to right now. So that's what I use, and that's what I encourage my folks to use. Okay, now, even though so I normally use like a quick and dirty multiplier to kind of like just determine if it's even worth a look. I still use the 5x multiplier. So for example, if a property is projected to make $100,000, I probably wouldn't want to pay more than $500,000 for it. Now, with the higher interest rates, higher home values, I may bump that number a little bit, but not before I actually go back and run the numbers on our calculator, okay? So I'm gonna show you real quick what our calculator looks like, and you can actually get access to this down in the link below. You have to put in your email address and whatever. But let me just share my screen real quick for those of you who are watching this on a video platform. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, then it's still okay, because I'm gonna basically tell you out loud what I'm doing here. So right now, this is a calculator right here that we use to evaluate our deals. Basically, I put in the purchase price, interest rate. Wow, look at that interest rate right there. It makes you want to just like gulp. That was a long time ago. But just to kind of show you how we run the numbers, you want to make sure that the property's income trickles all the way down to the bottom after you have factored in all your expenses, okay? So what expenses are we estimating? We're talking taxes, we're talking insurance, we're talking cleaning fees, supplies, utilities, internet, subscriptions, other maintenance costs like, hot tub cleaning, landscaping, other management expenses, other repairs that you may estimate on the property. Some of these, for example, like the taxes you can get from the city, you can call the city or call the property assessment office to get that number. You can call an insurance broker to get an estimate. And if you do here, make sure you ask them for a short-term rental estimate. This you have to get from like other listings in the area and see what they're charging for cleaning fees, and then estimate how many bookings you'll get a month. These other here just basically estimates. Now you want to be as conservative as you can be in your analysis so that you don't like super inflate. But the point of showing you this document is so that you don't think that because the property makes $94,000 a year in this example, that you're going to make $94,000 at the bottom. You have to factor in all these other expenses to know how much you would actually make in a given year. Now, sometimes by the time you get down to the bottom, it's red, okay? There's nothing left. For example, let's just throw something in here and assume that my cleaning fees here were $50,000, just as an example. Oops. Sorry, let's not break our calculator now. Okay. Okay, so let's just pretend that this number was $4,000 a month, okay? So now you can see there that now the cash flow is just shot. So don't assume, and this is just to kind of show you what can happen, don't assume that every property is going to cash flow. And the reason they're calling a thing a good deal or not is whether or not it can. I feel like it's not universal. There are situations where people may consider buying a negative cash flow property, but those are not my favorite. Those are like speculative type of deals. You're thinking, okay, well, maybe it'll appreciate. I do not recommend buying a negative cash flow property because I feel that I don't need to pay for other people's vacation. And if you're watching this, chances are you don't want to pay for other people's vacation either, okay? So try to get some cash flow at the bottom. If it does not cash flow, I just wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't do it. Now let's stress test this a little bit and actually bring the interest rates here up to what they are today. You can probably get something for 6.5. We're still cash flowing. Let's see if it cash flows at an interest rate of 10%. And we are still cash flowing. There you go. Okay. So this just kind of shows you how the cash flow and the cash on cash return changes as the interest rates change. But like I said, you really want to have a property that generates you income on a regular basis. So for those of you that are listening, what I just did now was I have a calculator spreadsheet that I'll give you links to down below, but you take the income from AirDNA, you subtract the expenses, the taxes, the insurance, the cleaning, the supplies, the utilities, internet, subscriptions, other maintenance costs, management expenses. Now, okay, so let me actually pause here. Management expenses, for most people that are in my world who are also trying to get the tax advantages, they will generally have and need to self-manage. Even if you're self-managing, I still make sure that I have a line item right there for management expenses, just in case I need to hand it off after a little while, in case I get tired, in case I get fed up, in case I want to pay someone to do this, let's say by year 2. I always have that in there. Repairs and then HOA or condo fees. If you're buying in a place that has either of those, you want to make sure you factor that in. Now, keep in mind that you're going to have seasonality, okay? So this doesn't make a promise of cash flow every single month. This may mean that in June, July, August, you may have significant cash flow, and then in other months, it may be less. So keep that in mind as well. Now, when it comes, though, to the question of is it a good deal, there is a fourth question that you should not pass go until you have answered that question. This is what I call the $1 million question, because it is currently costing someone probably about $1 million, okay? And that is why I call it the $1 million question. That is the question of, are short-term rentals permitted in the neighborhood, city, county, state, okay? You want to know if there are any regulations against short-term rentals wherever that property is located, okay? Now, this means that you need, particularly at the city or town level, you want to call. Did I say call? Call. Don't just look up on the internet. Look on the internet, but then call. Did you hear me say call? Call them and make sure that they actually allow for short-term rentals and that there are no plans to shut off short-term rentals in the area, because the last thing you want is to buy a property and then not be able to operate as a short-term rental or as you desire. Find out if there are any kind of licensing requirements or things that you need to have in place, because if there are, that will not be good for business. Okay, so I just gave you 4 questions that you need to ask to identify if it's a good deal or not. If any of those don't pan out, don't do it. I don't care how beautiful the house is, how gorgeous it looks, how much you think, oh my gosh, it has to be a good Airbnb. I hear that so often. I check numbers and I was like, no. Don't do it. Okay. Now, if you want to just buy a house for yourself, just because it's pretty, sure, go ahead. It's not a short-term rental, right? But if you want to actually buy it as a, with short-term rental business type of thing in mind, where cash flow is actually important to you, then you've got to answer these 4 questions to make sure that you are buying a true asset that puts money in your pocket and not a liability. All right. So if you have found any and all of this valuable, be sure to like, subscribe, and share it with a friend. Okay. What we are doing here is literally putting money in people's pockets by giving them actionable short-term rental strategies that have worked for us, worked for those in our programs. And if you would like help getting started with your own short-term rental, check out the links down below and basically apply to join our STR Runway, where we get to work with you on a closer level. All right, guys, take care. Bye.